Hi, Patty.
Hi. So honestly, I'm letting everybody in. I never know what I look like when I'm doing all of this. Hello, everybody. I just want to stop our meeting for today right here because I have all us important people in the room. Haha. See how that worked? Hi, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Thank you for letting me know you could hear me. I got news. We got new laws and they suck. And I don't want to get shot at by you guys. I'm going to do a special one on legislation and it'll be up on the website. Sorry, I didn't know if you guys just saw what I did. I'm cracking myself up right now. Oh, thank you so much. I got my hair done. I got something I need to tell all of you. It's my turn. My turn. So, you know how sometimes we all get frustrated and property management life happens to us and we get frustrated and you guys call me and you tell me what's going on. And sometimes we need to talk about it and get it out of our system. So my tenants called me on Thursday last week and said, oh, found out husband was cheating, blah, 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 and we're vacating. I said, oh, okay. When were you going to go ahead and turn in the keys? They said on Saturday. Life is happening to me. It is my turn. So there's quite a bit of things that need to be addressed, but we're going to address them and we're going to move forward. So just wanted to let you guys know it's happening to me. It's my turn. We have new laws for 2024. Yes, exactly, Melanie. You have no idea. Guess who's moving on Saturday? Me.
Patty, so how do you handle that?
My tenants moved out of the state.
Oh, can't handle that.
Guess who's moving? So I feel you guys. I always try to tell you guys, I'm one of you. All this stuff that happens to you guys happens to me too. You don't understand. I want to share with you. It is happening to me right now. I am living through it and it sucks. So thank you for whoever decided to share with me. Let's change the subject, okay? Let's talk about 2023 new laws. I'm going to touch on them today so that you have a better understanding of what we can and can't do going forward. And I'll explain to you the why behind it all, okay? They're trying to level the playing field. So as you all know, we can't ask for more than 1 month's rent as a maximum for a security deposit starting July 1st, unless we only own a couple of doors, and then we would be exempt from that new law. There's a few of them going on, so you need to pay close attention. We can no longer run criminal background checks, period, end of report. When did that take effect, Patty? January 1st. So you know how it says on my criteria, no felony convictions for manufacturing illegal substance, major bodily injury? It's got to come off of there. Can't use criminal history for a method of denial. Oh, it gets worse. It doesn't get better. Pay attention, because what I'm about to tell you is going to make you throw up in your mouth. A nuisance is now defined under the state definition of what a nuisance is. State law, state. Val, why do you think I'm making my face? State of California says we can no longer ask for more than 1 month's rent as a security deposit starting July 1st, unless we're a little mom and pop that owns less than 4 doors, including the house we live in. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, and they all suck. We can no longer run criminal background. It can no longer be a method of denial. Number 3, a nuisance. You know how we want to evict because they're a nuisance? Well, let me back up one and move forward. Crime-free housing. Those programs that have been in place for 30 years have just been canceled. No city, county, or anything can have anything against crime-free. So you know that addendum we use saying that you can't commit a crime on or near the property or you could be evicted? Can't use that anymore. Okay? No more crime-free addendum because there is no more crime-free. They see that as discrimination. Okay? And then this is the one that makes me nauseated. New law says that a nuisance is now defined by the state's definition of a nuisance. Under crime-free housing, we were able to evict. If they committed a crime on or near the property, we could evict everybody in the unit. Not anymore. We can't displace the whole family, only the person that committed the crime. And it gets worse, not better. Here's the one that is just, this is the one regarding a nuisance. And they go back to the state's definition of what a nuisance is. Okay, you ready? You cannot evict for a nuisance for criminal activity until a conviction has happened. Let me give you an example. In California, no, scratch that. In the United States of America, we are innocent until proven guilty. So we cannot evict because, as an example, your tenant shoots half of your community. Okay? Until they're convicted, I can't evict them. You are not experiencing technical difficulties. You are experiencing Patty trying to be quiet so I don't say what's really on my mind. What the almost Friday is she talking about? Yep. So we can't use criminal background anymore. We cannot run criminal background anymore. They've done their debt to society when they committed the crime and got arrested, and now they're out on their own free will. We have to treat them that way. They're evening the playing field. That's the best way I could describe it to you. And here's the piece of resistance. If your tenant, if your applicant is on Section 8 and they are applying from you, credit worthiness cannot be a reason for denial. What, Patty? So you know how we have a minimum FICO score? If they're on Section 8, you can't have that as your criteria. So if Section 8 applies for your property, running their credit report is something you can do, but you can't use it against them if they don't have your minimum FICO score. You have to find another way to get the information you need without running their credit. Give me about 2 weeks, because that gives me just enough time to be talking to attorneys and talking to all these people and making sure we can come up with our new plan outside of the box. The reality of this is, you guys, every time we come up with a thinking outside of the building, not outside of the box, they figure out what we've come up with and then they pass laws to stop us. Okay? Okay. Everybody understand that? They are trying to even the playing field. They are trying to even the playing field. I talk about treating everybody the same. They're making it so we have to treat everybody the same, and we don't know if they're good or bad. I'm trying to be quiet because I don't have anything nice to say about the new laws. And remember I said life is happening to me? Today's the day. And let me tell you, I came into work this morning, our phones don't work. We don't have internet. I can't email. I can't do anything. I wanted to print out the new laws and go over them with you. And I left them sitting on my dresser because I'm a little stressed, okay? My tenant has destroyed my house. I'm a little stressed. I'm sure you can all relate, okay? And on top of that, in order to offset my expenses, I'm moving in there. So I'm moving. On top of everything else that's going on and the laws changing, and I had this huge printout ready to go. I left it on my bed. My bad. I apologize. I'm doing something that'll be on the website in the coming weeks. I don't know if you guys have watched the website, but we're revamping, reloading, and we're going to have training courses available, taught by me, yours truly, right on the website. So if you guys want to know or you need help with the disposition of security deposit, you're going to be able just to go to the website and watch a 20-minute, 10-minute video on doing those. It's my way of helping you guys at a finger's notice, where you could just go, what did Patty say about wear and tear? Let me go watch her class again. And you can just go log on and watch the class. So I'm trying to do things that help you as you need them. And rather than watching a 2-hour video on how to do something, I'm going to give you a quick 10 minutes here, a quick 10 minutes, and I'll go into detail, but I don't want you to have to call me and I say, fast forward to section number 18 minutes and 43 seconds kind of thing. Okay.
Patty, thank
So
you.
it's something that I'm doing as a tool for you guys. So it's available at your fingertips, and you don't have to sit through a 30-minute video to find your answer, because we all know it's the very last sentence in that 30-minute video. So I'm going to try to do some quick 10-minute segments of different processes, and that'll be available on the website in probably the next 30 days. Quite a bit of it is done already, but we're diligently working to bring that to you guys. And we'll have a source on there on legislation. I don't call it new laws because I'm not an attorney. So new legislation is what you guys want to look for. And like I said, that'll be up in about a week. But there's a lot of new laws that, as simply as I can explain it to you, yeah, we all get pissed. We can't run credit if they're on Section 8. We can't ask for a higher security deposit. We can't do this. We can't do that. They're leveling the playing field. That's exactly what they're doing. If you stand back and look at the big picture as to all the rules that are changing, exactly what they're doing. They're leveling the playing field even further. So we have no choice but to treat everybody the same. Okay. Oh, lots of questions coming. Good night. Okay, here they come. Okay, hang on. Oh, thank you, Arlene. I got my hair done. It's been a while. I was going to try to make the AGLA installation event tomorrow night, but I don't know if I'm going to make it yet or not. I am feeling better this year. I ended 2023 with bronchitis, laryngitis. It was bad. I had to cancel the webinars because I couldn't even talk. All right. This is state of California, not LA laws, Val. Is CAA printing all new forms? Yes, there are new documents that are coming out for some of the new rules that are going on. Okay, and I see all the comments about how unhappy everyone was with the news I was delivering. Sorry. Yep, having no identification will probably be next, Val. No joke, where they don't even have to tell us who they are, right? They just get to move in. If I consider a cosigner on all applicants that do not have good credit, can I ask this for a person on Section 8? No, because credit worthiness is not a qualification for a Section 8 tenant. In other words, you can run their credit. You can see what bills they owe and what they don't owe. What you can't do is have a minimum FICO score as your requirement. You can still run their credit. You can still look at their credit report. You cannot have a minimum FICO score when dealing with Section 8. I hope that makes sense. And I'm still going down the long list of stuff. Our local and state government are running us out of business. Say that again, Marion. But Patty, Section 8 doesn't always pay their portion of the rent. And now we can't check credit. You can check credit, but you cannot have a minimum FICO score requirement for a tenant applying with Section 8. Example, I require a 650 minimum FICO score. For Section 8, that doesn't work. That is not a requirement for them. You can still run their credit. You can still see if they have the ability to pay their bills or if they've been paying bills. You can do that. You cannot require them to have a minimum FICO score if they are on Section 8. Okay? Can we have criteria to ask for 3 years of bank statements? Yeah, but do you want to go through 3 years of bank statements? I'd ask for 3 months of bank statements and maybe 3 years of tax returns, but I wouldn't be wanting to look through 3 years of bank statements. I'd be wanting to rip my hair out by then.
If you're not treating everybody the same, isn't that discrimination though?
But let me say this out loud, okay? I don't care how much money they made 3 years ago. I want to know what they make right now.
Right, but if you have FICO score for your other potential tenants,
you could make this a requirement. Yes, this is something that we could go about. Yes. You want to, okay, stop. I'm going to say this out loud to you, Arlene, and I'm saying it to you this way because I want everybody to get it. And you're just the one that's delivering the question. Okay. So I'm not picking on you. I love you, girl. Help play with me. Okay.
Okay.
Are you on month-to-month contracts?
No.
Do you only provide a month-to-month contract? Because Section 8 will only do a 1-year lease to start. Did that click?
No.
Did that click?
No.
But Patty,
Section 8 will only do a 1-year lease to start. Say it again, David, because I heard you.
Yes, Patty, but you cannot say, oh, in this case, I do not accept Section 8 on a year, but I already have accepted others for a year. And this one, I don't like to accept for a year. That bothers me.
With the changes in the new law, I've changed my business practice to only do month-to-month contracts.
But not every city allows that.
Right. But what I'm trying to tell you without telling you is if you're in a city that doesn't restrict you.
Now I got it.
It clicked, Arlene. It clicked.
Okay. Sorry. Now I get it. Okay.
Okay. So Arlene, what you understand, can you say for us, please?
So if you're in a city and not our LA RSO or West Hollywood that requires a 1-year minimum for the first contract, then your recommendation, it would be to only do month-to-months.
And why would I say that?
Because Section 8 requires a 1-year minimum on their first round. Yeah.
Did everybody understand what Arlene and I are trying to tell you? Some cities require that you start on a 1-year contract. Okay. LARSO does. Anything that's in LARSO. And the reason that we're telling you, and I'm letting more people in, just bear with me. The reason that we're telling you about the LARSO impact is because you are bound by their restrictions to only do 1-year contracts. You can't do a month-to-month, right? So If the city doesn't tell you you have to do a 1-year contract, a month to month sounds so much better. That's what we're trying to say, okay? Everybody got it? What if we change our standard as a month to month versus a 1-year lease agreement? Won't this make it a little easier for us? Exactly. Can Section 8 tenants buy a car without the dealership asking for a credit score? Geesh. Okay, let me answer that because I'm with you. No, because they're not providing housing, they're providing transportation. Sorry. I don't have any Section 8. All my rentals for over 20 years have been a month-to-month tenancy. All right, Tony, are you bragging? Okay, so just so you guys know, Tony has a lot of properties right in the heart of LARSO. So for her to say she doesn't have any Section 8 tenants, I am amazed, okay? Amazed. Suri, I can't give you legal advice, but I think you're answering your own question. Miriam answered it. Thank you. Thank you, you guys. I'm going to say this to you again. Patty cannot give legal advice. Patty is not an attorney. What Patty gives you is operational advice. Ideas for better business practices. My rental criteria states month to month. A caseworker for a client came in to inspect my rental and asked me, is this for all your rentals you have here? And we have been doing this for years. Tony. So what did you guys hear that? I'm going to read it again. This is on the meeting. So Tony typed this in. God love her. I call her my candle girl. Long story, don't ask. She says, my rental criteria states month to month. A caseworker for my client that came in to inspect my rental asked me, is this for all your rentals you have here? Yes, and we have been doing this for years. Okay.
But she's in LARSO, so how?
Because they're not making her renew, and they've been there for over 20 years.
Yeah. But if this is somebody coming in to ask for a new, she's
right.
She's back
And you got to renew on a 1 year, If they want a 1 year, you got to do a 1 year. It's crazy. Are you saying that LA City RSO requires a 1 year minimum for their first year? Yes, I believe that's what LARSO's guidelines are. Arlene, will you agree with that statement?
Yes.
Exactly. LARSO requires that you have 1 year. But I need you to understand something, Marion. You keep saying LA City. And RSO is not in LA City anymore. It is spread like cancer. It is now in the city of Wilmington. It's in the city of Torrance. It's in Harbor City. It's out in the valley in the San Fernando area. So LA City's bullshit spread like cancer and infected unincorporated areas of the county is the nicest way I could tell you. So it's not just LA City RSO, okay? We call it LARSO, but it covers City of San Pedro, Harbor City, Torrance, no Redondo Beach. I looked that up yesterday, but I mean, it's everywhere. So there are properties in the city of Torrance and the city of Harbor City as a great example where you have to pay SCEP fees and have LARSO governing you. So be cautious. If you want to know exactly what governs an address, use that stayhousedla.org. I know it's a website for tenants. I get it. But if that's what they know, don't you want to know what they know? I want to know what they know. So use the tenant website. It's called stayhousedla.org. You go to, and it says, you got an eviction notice? We can help, or something like that. Skip that part. There's another red button that says get started. Skip that part. Just near that red button that says get started, it says the eviction process. You want to click on that. Okay. Then scroll down till it changes colors and it'll tell you to enter an address. Ha! Enter the address and it'll pull up what governs that address. Okay. It's a great tool. Stayhousedla.org. No joke. I use it several times a day. And now I'm starting to have a hot flash on top of all of this, and I'm wearing a sweater. Anybody have questions for me? And we will go into depth over the new laws. Like I said, I'm gonna have boxes on my website where you could check legislation, check on the new rules. We're working on it, you guys. I'm trying to put it together for all of you.
I have a
But
question.
the new laws are really, really restrictive against us as landlords. It really is, for lack of a better way to explain it, leveling the playing field. That's how I see it. They want us to close our eyes, reach into a hat, pull out a name, and that's the name of our new tenant. I mean, it's pretty much what this is gonna get to, okay? I pulled your name out of a hat, so I guess you're moving in. Sorry. I haven't heard anything about Agla's lawsuits. I actually am gonna try to go to their installation dinner. I'm sorry, it's not a dinner. Their installation thing in LA, I believe it's tomorrow night from 6 to 9 p.m. That's why I said I don't know if I'm gonna make it because it's a long drive for me at the end of the day. At the very end of the day, like I won't get home until midnight. So it puts a toll on me, if that makes sense to you. Is it necessary to notify tenants that their 1-year lease agreement is ending? No. Correct. So if your 1-year lease term then goes to a month-to-month contract, the month-to-month contract starts when neither party give notice and the tenant continues to pay rent, that extends it automatically into a month-to-month. Okay? But don't lose your lease contract because those are still the written rules the tenant has to follow. Even if it's 10 years from now, they still have to follow the rules on your contract as long as they are in compliance with the law. So in other words, if you have a lease that's 10 years old and the rules have changed, you can't enforce that lease because the rules have changed. The law controls, okay? But if the rules haven't changed and your tenant moves in an unauthorized occupant, that is still the contract you're going to use to evict them. It's still the rules everybody has to follow, is what I'm trying to say. It's just the time that has ended. Can we choose to renew the lease annually instead? You can, but I wouldn't. Let me explain, okay? Leases suck. Okay? They suck. They suck. They don't guarantee you that a tenant's going to stay there for a year. They don't. Could they be responsible for the rent? Yeah. Could they move out? Yeah. A 1-year lease term benefits only the tenant because the landlord can't change the rent and they can't change the rules until that term has ended. Okay? So tell me, how does that help you as a landlord? 30 years ago, and this is why we implemented 1-year leases, we had a crazy thing going in the market where all of a sudden interest rates went real low and tenants were able to purchase. This was about 25, 30 years ago. And people were moving into our properties, staying there for 1 or 2 months until their house closed escrow, and then moving out. We were spending a lot of money flipping our vacants, paint, carpet. I mean, it's what you got to do, right? We decided we don't want to do this anymore. This is too much money we're spending. So we implemented 1-year lease contracts, okay, to stop that. Make sense? It's not a problem anymore. Okay, people aren't moving into our units for 1 month and then wanting to move out. It's not an issue. Okay, you understand? People are moving in and they want to stay there forever, sometimes for free, but they want to stay there for a long time. So that 1-year contract, we don't need that as much as we did 30 years ago when there was a problem in the industry with the housing market is what caused us to do that. For every action, there's a reaction. Our reaction was put them on a 1-year contract. That'll solve the problem. Well, it did. That problem's over with. It's okay to start on a month-to-month if the municipality that governs you allows it. What can I do if I no longer want to retain a tenant at the end of the lease? Issue them a notice of non-renewal. if it's allowed by the municipality for you to end a fixed term lease without paying relocation fees. Got it? So we cannot run a potential tenant's criminal background. At least in Kern County, I can look up criminal history on the county website. Not familiar if LA County does this and what other counties may charge or not allow. Okay, fancy pants. Because I do the same damn thing. I also look them up under the court's vexatious litigant list. Right, Val? Nobody said we couldn't look there. You just can't deny them for information that you find that way. Okay? It doesn't matter what you find out. You can't deny them based on their criminal history. Okay? And we can do that in other counties too. You just got to know how to do it. By the way, camo pants, not fancy pants. Did I say fancy pants? I wear nothing but camo pants. I don't have my camos on today though. And what I'm doing is I'm teasing you because a lot of people don't know that they have that capability. And vexatious litigants are a real thing, folks, okay? You should always check the court's vexatious litigant list before you rent to someone. Oh, no. Ivana, sex offenders, there's Megan's Law rules. Lies regarding what? Their income, where they used to live? Yes, you can deny them for that. You cannot deny a federally funded applicant based on their credit score. But you can deny them because they have unpaid utilities on their credit report. And I have to check with sex offenders. I don't think so because it's a criminal background. And what we tell them is they have to run the Megan's Law list on their own. So I got a feeling the answer to your question is no, you can't, not for criminal history. You cannot run a criminal background. And if you do, you sure can't deny them because you found something on the internet. Now you see the problem?
Quick question, Patty, please.
Yes.
I'm a little confused. This Form Care Act that must be served to Section 8 tenants. Is that only for a 3-day notice to pay or quit, or is it for quit and perform, or in what situations you use them?
It's only to be used on a pay rent or quit, not on a curable breach of covenant. So it's for monetary damages. Make sense?
Yes.
Anything they owe you where they owe you money has to go on a 30-day CARES Act notice. So just so you guys understand, I'm going to go into detail of what he's talking about. If you have federal funds touching the property in either direction, and I'll explain in just a minute. On the tenant side, that would be Section 8. Okay, so on the tenant side, Section 8 would be federal funds. So in the event, okay, in the event that the tenant has Section 8, you cannot use a regular 3-day notice to pay rent or quit anymore. It's a 30-day notice to pay rent or quit subject to the CARES Act. In that 30 days, you can't count weekends and holidays. So it turns out to be more like a 45-day notice to pay rent or quit. In the event you are having to serve a CARES Act notice, giving the tenant 30 days to pay rent or quit, I highly suggest and strongly recommend that you do not accept partial payments. Otherwise, you're just going to be constantly having a pending notice. Does that make sense? I hope so. Okay.
Where do I get that form though? The 30-day notice with CARE Act
A
in it.
30-day notice for CARES Act? Email me. Also, you have to use a 30-day notice for CARES Act if the landlord has a Freddie Mae or Fannie Mae or FHA backed mortgage. So if there's federal funds touching it from either side, whether it's from the owner's side on the mortgage or from the tenant side with Section 8 or VASH housing, you have to use a 30-day CARES Act notice. You cannot use a 3-day pay rent or quit. Everybody got that? I hate the CARES Act notice. It sucks because if the tenant makes a partial payment, you're reserving and waiting another 45 days. What constitutes an unlawful eviction with so many requirements for eviction in Larceau? And how do unlawful eviction cases succeed? We're extremely successful in them succeeding. We've even had a couple of jury trials go all the way through jury and be successful. Okay, so it does happen. For the most part, you come up with a settlement agreement for them to vacate in most cases. It just depends. And I know that you're in the middle of a snollygoster, and Erin has a snollygoster, you guys. It's bad. It's bad. So I know Erin will let me say this. A tenant thought that the hardwood floors that were underneath her carpeting were much prettier than the actual carpet. So she removed the carpet and the padding, which was the sound barrier, and created a noise problem for the entire building. God love tenants, but the wood floors are so pretty. Yeah. So it just depends. We are being very successful in eviction cases in Larceau. Most of them come to settlement. We have had a couple of juries go through. What constitutes an unlawful eviction? Anything. No joke. So check this out. Had a property owner contact us. He was successful in his jury trial during COVID, but he wanted us to go after his attorney's fees because he was awarded attorney's fees at the end of the jury trial in their pleadings. He was awarded jury fees in the amount of $130,000. Basta, who was the tenant advocate group attorney on the tenant side, went back to court and argued that they wanted the attorney's fees lowered. So they were lowered to $84,000. Basta still didn't want to pay. The tenant was evicted, the tenant got out. We're just fighting for legal fees at this point. So Basta filed an appeal, and the whole entire case went to the appellate court, where the appellate court found an error in the court case filing. And removed all of the attorney's fees that were owed. Ouch. Ouch. Why are they punishing landlords? Because they want to control the housing market. And they're not punishing us. Why do they want to control the housing market? Because we're the minority and they are the majority. The state of California is 80% or more tenant occupied. 80%, no joke. It was 79% in 2018 before they opened our borders. I haven't checked it recently. And I don't even know if they'd have good numbers. I mean, let's face it, a lot of us homeowners bailed during the COVID pandemic and moved to another state. And now what replaced that? More tenants? Plus we opened our borders. So of course we have more tenants. So it's not that they're punishing us. We're the minority. If you want to run for political office, who do you make the rules for? Well, if you want to win, you make them for the people that are going to vote for you, right? Those are tenants, not landlords. Okay. A landlord in Inglewood said her 3-day notice to pay rent or quit was invalid and had to serve a 30-day. That would be why it went from a 3-day to a 30 days, because of the CARES Act. Our tenant was evicted, yay, in Larso, yay, at the end of December, and she still has a balance of $46,000. And the judge ordered that she apply for rent relief on the honor system. I'm sure that's not going to happen. Okay, let me give you a tool, Melanie, okay? I'm gonna give you a tool right now. For all of the rent relief funds or any of the rent relief funds being offered, one of the rules is that the tenant is still in possession. So you tell the judge the next time you go to court that they're gonna apply for rent relief on the honor system, that it doesn't work as long as the tenant is no longer in possession of the property. That is one of the qualifications of all of the rent relief that's on the program that I've ever seen, is that the tenant has to remain in possession. So sue in small claims court. No joke. For the second part of COVID rent that's due next month, sue in small claims. It's unlimited during the COVID pandemic. So file a small claims against her next month or whenever you want to, as long as it's not, if you do it within 4 years. So you don't have to run down there with your hair on fire is what I'm trying to say. Aaron here, sorry you asked. I love you though. and thank you for letting me tell him what your wonderful tenant did to you, because she thought it was prettier. It's caused her nothing but all kinds of trouble because it's too much noise for the neighbors downstairs, for the neighboring residents across the hall. I mean, they can hear everything. And I mean everything, even their phone conversations. It's bad. And I'm sorry that she has to deal with that. What a mess. If a Section 8 tenant pays via Zelle, may I give notice to this Section 8 tenant? I now only want her rent to be paid via mail. I don't trust her. What you're speaking of is waiting for her to be out of a 1-year contract and doing a 30-day notice of change of terms of tenancy. Remember, your rental agreement spells out the rules. So if you don't want them to use Zelle, that needs to be done in the lease contract and or with a 30-day notice of change terms of tenancy. Okay. Can we collect or ask for rent during the time the tenant was served with eviction docs and the actual move out? Melanie, I don't understand the question, so I'm going to repeat it to me again, okay? Can we collect or ask for rent during the time that the tenant was served with eviction docs and the actual move out? You mean in the small claims case?
Yes. Hi, Patsy. Yes.
Absolutely. They still owed the rent during that time period. You just couldn't collect it while you were evicted.
Thank
Make
you.
sense? Make sense?
Thank
They
you.
still
Yep,
owe
yep,
it.
yep.
You just can't collect it and evict. Okay.
Thank you.
No problem. Anytime. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, okay? Do not accept any rent while you're going through an eviction unless it is commercial property and your reason for eviction is non-payment of rent. That is the only place you can collect rent and still proceed with an eviction. And just for all my commercial managers out there, if they pay the full amount on the notice, you're done here. There's no case anymore. Example, tenant owes $25,000. You serve them a 3-day for the $25,000. They pay $5,000. We go to trial, or we're not in trial yet, okay? They get served. When they get served, they pay another $10,000. $15,000's been paid, okay? They still owe 10. Can I continue moving forward? Absolutely, in commercial real estate only. And it has to be on the commercial notice. It has to say this in their lease. There's lots of caveats that have to be in place in order for a commercial manager to be able to collect funds owed and still proceed with the eviction. Once you collect $25,000 worth, you're done. You cannot keep evicting. They've paid the amount on the notice. Okay? Just trying to help you. All right, hang on. Let me go backwards. I'm sorry if you answered this question. It's fine. I'm okay with double questions. How much can we raise rent in Redondo Beach for an attached townhome, and do we give a 30-day notice? Yes, you give a 30-day notice. I believe Redondo Beach is incorporated LA County. I know this because I used to live there. So it's incorporated LA County, so you're not governed by the DCBA. It's a townhome, so it's separately alienable. Paying attention. So if you disclosed that you're exempt from maybe 1482 because it's separately alienable, then the reality is you could probably do a 10% rent increase with a 30-day notice. I don't suggest doing anything over 10% without talking to your legal counsel first. And we're currently not in a state of emergency, but that could happen anytime the wind blows, okay? So I'd be at 10%. I know LA County is 8.8 if you're governed by the TPA, but as a townhome, you should be exempt because it's separately alienable. So my question is, are you subject to AB 1482 or are you exempt? Because if you're subject to, my answer is going to be 8.8%. And if you're not subject, my answer is 10%. Do change of notices have to be applicable to all tenants, or can they be drawn according to the behavior of certain tenants? You got to treat everybody the same. So what are you changing on the 30-day notice to change of terms? You understand?
Yes, I do understand. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. That's the tenant that I am working on doing an eviction on because she has an incurable default on her lease agreement, and I don't want to continue to take her rent. From my understanding, you can correct me if I'm wrong. If I start this eviction, it's not predicated on whether or not she's paying rent. This is not a default. She's on Section 8. Section 8 pays the majority of her rent. But the other things that she has done to my place without permission, that's what I'm going after her on. What I want to know, do I continue to accept her rent, although it's not predicated on no payment of rent?
You continue to accept the payment from Section 8. You cannot accept the payment from her or you void the eviction.
Okay, even though it's due to non-payment of rent.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't
If
matter.
you
So
accept
stop.
rent, you
Okay.
void the eviction in residential dwellings. Period. End of report.
Okay, so,
Commercial is the only one that allows you to accept money and continue to evict, not residential.
okay, so based upon that, when I get this money via Zelle, do I just turn around and return it? Or how do I go about treating it? Because then it's considered accepted if she's paying via Zelle.
Unfortunately, I can't accept the rent at this time because we have a default in your rental agreement.
So just let her know that. Okay, okay,
You're not accepting payment because you're dealing with the default of her rental agreement.
so tell her that before the rent is due in February.
You're not taking it. You can't touch it. When did the default happen?
I haven't started. I'm getting all the paperwork ready for the attorney right now.
I gotcha.
Okay,
Don't take any rent.
okay, but she's already paid for this month, but starting next month.
Well, and I'd talk to the attorney that's helping you. They may even want you to refund this month's rent. Let me give you an example of why, okay?
Sure.
And that's a bad example, Patty, because you can't use a crime for a reason to get somebody out of a house. So hold on, let Patty give you a good example, not a bad one, okay? Hold
Okay.
on.
Okay,
Okay, we're gonna play this game, okay?
okay,
Your tenant has been convicted of a crime of God knows what, okay?
mhm,
And has been arrested and is in prison, okay? If they paid you January's rent and they got arrested in December,
mhm,
it's unethical for me to say, I'm kicking you out for something you did last month, but I took this month's rent. Make
okay,
sense?
yes.
Make sense?
Yes.
So sometimes, especially in LA RSO,
Mhm.
once you accept the rent, you're voiding whatever they did wrong.
Okay.
It waives it. Does that make
Fine.
sense?
I gave her a 3-day notice to perform or quit, and we're long beyond that. Huh?
On what day?
Um, it
So
was,
you're starting new with new 3-day performer quits?
yes, exactly.
When you serve the first payer or the first cure quit, don't take any more rent after that day.
Okay, well, she paid
And
the rent
please,
for this month.
I got you. But
Okay.
once you serve your first cure or quit, don't take
Mhm.
any more rent after that day.
Okay, okay,
And verify that with your legal counsel so that I'm not giving you anything that I shouldn't. Okay?
okay.
I'm trying.
Okay, I have a very interesting situation, and perhaps this might help others too.
Go ahead.
Okay, I have a tenant that has been living in the building for 43 years, and yet we haven't owned the building for 43 years, okay? I don't have a copy of her original contract. She doesn't have it either, okay? So there was no security deposit being collected back in the day, so there is no security deposit. She's not even actually sure what her rent started out being. I remember when I had taken over back in 1990, that she was only paying like $99 for a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, okay? Since that time, all the way up until COVID period, I was increasing her rents by the 3%. I'm only up to $740 from $99 starting in 1990. I don't have a contract. I'd like to know, how do I handle this situation with basically only a verbal? What do I do next? And how do I treat it?
What's the situation?
She pays the amount from whenever I had taken over back in 1990 versus and incorporating the 3% increases for 33 years. She
Right.
had been paying, this amount according to what she remembered the rent was, from the beginning, but there is literally no contract. Then she had to remember, she had to call her adult son and ask, did we ever get one? He told her, no, mom, we never got one.
Okay, then they're in there on an oral agreement.
So what do I do now? I'd like to see an agreement. I was gonna turn everything over to,
Is it in Larceau?
yes, it's in LA City. Yeah,
Is it governed by LARSO? You pay SCEP fees?
yes,
You might not be able to, and just hear me out, okay?
okay,
You can produce an agreement for your tenant to sign. And
okay,
if you both mutually sign and agree, then that becomes the rules.
okay.
The
Do,
key is she has to agree.
okay,
So let me say this to you,
Okay.
okay? And please listen, okay? Because Patty's going to give you some of her verbiage, and this works for other places too for everybody listening. Unfortunately, after review of your file, I happen to notice that I don't have a written contract with you on file, which tells me that you don't know what all the rules are that help protect you, the tenant. So I'd like to, with your permission, have just a month-to-month rental agreement put into place that we can both agree to. So we have rules and you know what rules protect you and what laws are here to help protect you. So I'm going to send you a rental agreement for you to look at. It's just a month-to-month. It has the rent on that you've been paying now. I'm not trying to do a rent increase or anything foolish. I'm genuinely just trying to notify you of what your rights are.
okay, okay.
If
All
they
right.
sign it and agree to it, different set of facts. Because it's a mutual agreement. Make sense?
So the fact that
You can't force one on her,
right,
okay?
although I don't have one, period.
You have an oral agreement. The only rules she has to follow are what's governed by the law and paying the rent.
Oh, I hear you, but I don't quite understand, because I mean, paying the rent is one thing, but what about all the other concessions in the lease and all of the other provisions in the lease agreement? If that's verbal, how is it made verbal when you have like basically a 4 to 8 page agreement? So am I agreeing to everything that would be in the city? I don't understand. I can understand what you're saying, the rent, but applicable to everything else, all the other paragraphs in today's lease agreement.
Okay,
You
right.
see what I'm
So
saying?
what I'm telling you is right now, she doesn't have any rules. So she could move anybody in there and there's nothing you can do about it because she doesn't have any rules.
Okay, so if she
Make
doesn't have
sense?
any rules, well then,
She has to follow the law. So
Okay.
she can't break the law and cause all kinds of a nuisance in your community and expect to still stay there
okay,
just because she doesn't have any written rules. Make sense?
yes, yes.
But as far as her paying a late fee, and I'm talking out loud, having unauthorized occupants, cleaning up her trash, you don't have any rules.
She's willing to sign it, but I just didn't know because I'm doing an increase as of February. Well, as of March, I'm gonna be giving everybody a 30-day notice.
So
Yeah,
just do this casual, separated from that. Don't do
Okay.
any weird rent increases. And if she mutually, and
Mhm.
don't use this to make tomfoolery because then she won't sign it and she'll say you're harassing her.
Okay,
You got to be careful. Okay.
okay.
All right.
Now-
Let me
Go
see. David has a question. In case of Section 8, is there any instance that I could serve a 60-day instead of a 90-day? My tenant is causing a lot of problems and just moved in under a 1-year lease of Section 8. That's why I don't like leases.
Mhm.
I have already served a 3-day notice to perform or quit. You can continue on with a 3-day cure or quit and start building the drama for the case that direction, but you really don't have a leg to stand on. They're in a 1-year contract. So as long as they're not breaking the rules, okay? Hi, Val, here's a weird one. A tenant spontaneously tells us that they are leaving and moved out around December 9th, which was a Saturday. This kind of sounds like my life right now. My assistant was unavailable until Monday. In his dispo, I would have used the 9th. However, he left a dog and said it was a stray and moved to LA. I've already had to send an estimated dispo since my 21 days were due. Supposedly the tenant had a relative pick up dog several days later. My crew cleaned up the place, kept the dog until the pickup. My dispo charged the tenant for 14 days since I rented it quickly on the 15th. The damage was $3,000 and we're running for 3 months running a puppy mill. Anyway, my question is about turning this case over to collections since I know I'll never see a penny from them. Yeah, written contract, you have up to 4 years to go sue them in small claims. So if I had my opinion, if you were on a written contract, I'd wait a year for them to recuperate, and then I'd sue them in small claims for the money they owe. Don't attack. When you guys evict somebody or somebody moves, they're hurting financially. I don't know when the last time you moved was, but it's not cheap. Okay. You got to get a moving truck. You got to have a place to go. I mean, there's lots of things going on there. So my theory is this: when you evict somebody, you basically knock them down. They're face first in the dirt, right? They could have lost their job. They lost their house. They're scrambling. I know that we've all heard, kick them when they're down. You can't get blood out of a turnip. So while they're down and they're scrambling, trying to find a place to live and get their life back together, isn't the time to kick them. Wait for them to stand back up, have a job, have a place to live, then attack and knock them back down in the dirt. Don't kick them while they're down. You can't get anything there. Big picture, wait for them to recover, then attack. Does that make sense? I hope so. All right, I see another question. Hang on. Oh my gosh, it's a long one, G. Jones. Wait, I saw something else. I'm trying to get back to it. Hang on. People are typing. FYI to all, while I accept almost 90% of the rents through Zelle, I did have a problem with one tenant. I called Zelle and they told me specifically their policy said Zelle was not to be used for rent. Anywho, I'm still using it. I wouldn't use it for rent because you can't turn it off. That's my opinion. Use cozy.co. It's a much better practice for little people, little mom and pops. I'm not talking about corporate America. You stick with your Yardi and your Rent's free and all your rent collect software, okay? Don't listen to me. The little mom and pop, instead of Zelle, try cozy.co. You have to pay a little bit for it, but you can turn off the portal. Priceless, okay? I need to rescind an over 10% increase. An owner served the tenant in early 23. The property is subject to the Tenant Protection Act, AB 1482. In LA City, property is non-RSO. Do I serve a change of terms of tenancy to rescind? No. A rent increase? No. Notice states changes will take effect 30 days from the date of service or any date which is later. The property is subject. I got that the property is subject. I know the answer. Okay, so for the improper rent increase, now that you found the rent increase, you are required to immediately credit the tenant's ledger for the overage. That's all. Example, my tenant's been paying $10 more than they should have for the past 2 years. Oops. Okay, let's give them a rent credit. 2 years, $10, that's $240. I almost said 2,400. $240. So they get a rent credit of $240 on their ledger. And for every month they pay me going forward, if they pay that increased amount, they still have a credit on their ledger. So it's a rolling credit. Got it? Make sure you deduct that credit if you serve a 3-day notice. But no, we don't rescind at this point. If they've paid it, we need to credit their ledger. And then you could just tell them, hey, your rent is this amount. I don't know why you're paying $10 more. It's this amount. Oh, but I thought it was it. Oh, no, that notice was rescinded. That rent increase didn't take effect. You have a credit on your ledger. That simple, okay? Hi, Patty. I'm sorry for your stress. Thank you, Arlene. I don't look at it as stress. I just, every time I start to get like, I just say, you're not alone. You're not alone. You're not alone. But I just wanted to tell you guys, it happens to me too. I am human, okay? Hi, Patty. Sorry for your stress. When will it be convenient to talk about my Lars? Okay, so you guys know, and I don't want to freak you out. Separate parking is also part of the new law. And for all new construction in 2025, you cannot have a separate parking fee starting in 2025, going forward on all new construction. So Arlene, just so you know, and everybody else hears us, you know how we put all of our parking in LA on a separate contract? They're going to stop us from doing that. There's already laws in place and they implemented new laws. They aren't having it. They know what we're doing and they're stopping us. Okay, so that's me giving you a heads up. And again, I left that printout sitting on my nightstand. Otherwise, I'd be reading to you exactly what the new law is. I have something coming out on my blog. I don't know if it's up today because I tried to print it out before this started and I didn't have any success. But it's under legislation. It's a new laws for 2024, and it talks about the fact that we cannot unbundle parking from a tenancy. They're going to discourage us from doing that. So new construction 2025 and newer, you can't unbundle parking. Yes, I will be serving a 3-day notice and I want it to be correct. Well, that's why I said if you serve a 3-day, make sure you credit on the 3-day notice. So example, if they have a $240 credit on their ledger and they owe you $1,240, you're going to 3-day them for $1,000. Okay. It's not okay that you did an illegal rent increase. It's perfectly acceptable that you corrected it and credited the ledger of the tenant immediately. So that if you get down the road somewhere and they say, hey, what happened here? There was an overage on the tenant's part. They were paying more rent than they should be. So we credited them, notified them to stop paying the extra amount. And there's nothing wrong with that. Once you find it, the law says you must immediately credit it to the tenant by either sending them a check or giving them a credit on their ledger. I'm not sending a tenant a check ever. Ever. 7 times never. That was rescinded, so they shouldn't have been paying it. And they're going to say, oh, nobody told me. Oh, I'm sorry you didn't get that message. It's just very casual, okay, G. Jones? Very casual. Oh, I'm sorry, that was rescinded. You don't pay that. Your base rent is this amount. Larso, do we have to pay security deposit interest to tenants? Yes, absolutely. When do we need to pay them? Annually. You got to pay them every year for the interest on the security deposit. And you're tripping me out right now, Ivana, because you're asking me 2 different questions at the same time. In Larso, do we have to pay the security deposit interest to tenants? The answer to that is absolutely yes. When do we need to pay them? Once a year. I usually do it right around Christmas time or before Christmas, so they get a little bit back right at Christmas time. And it's a joke because you and I both know it's about $10. Okay. For 2023, the interest is 0.04%. So if the rent is $1,500, what is the amount of interest we need to pay? It's on the security deposit, not on your rent. Has nothing to do with your rent. Okay. You need to pay 0.04% interest on whatever your deposit amount is. Got it? When do we need to apply? I know what you meant, but I want to make sure everybody understands it's not about the rent, it's about the deposit. And that's me just making sure. And I know, girl, come on, I typo too every day. I'm blonde. So when do we apply the rent threshold before giving a 3-day notice to pay rent or quit? Absolutely, Tony. That's exactly when the threshold rent applies. And threshold rent went up as of the first of the year. Give me a second and I'll go grab it because there's new threshold amounts. Hold on, you guys, hang on real quick. Okay, I have the threshold amounts. Does everybody have pen and paper? For those that want to know the new amounts for threshold rent in LA City, or it's not just LA City, it's, hold on. It's LA market rent. There we go, market rent. I had to think about it. It doesn't apply to Harbor City. This is LA Cities and it's market rent. So it only applies in LA City. And we have new dollar amounts, okay, for threshold rent. And this started January 1st, 2024. You ready? Studio is $1,777. 1 bedroom, $2,006. That's 2006. 2 bedroom, $2,544. I'm gonna sneeze maybe. Hang on. I'm good. A 3 bedroom. Oh, let me go back to the 2 bedroom in case you missed that. 2 bedrooms, $2,544. A 3 bedroom is $3,263. A 4 bedroom is $3,600. So that is the new threshold amounts for LA City for this year of 2024. So when do we apply the threshold rent before giving a 3-day notice to pay rent or quit? Exactly. Tony, example, in a 2-bedroom apartment, you can't serve a 3-day until your tenant is $2,544 behind or more. If they're under that, you can't serve them. It's like a forced savings account for the tenant at the landlord's expense. Thank you, Val, for doing the math. Look, everybody's trying to help everybody. I love that about this group. So suppose I have not paid any interest to any tenants in the past several years. What should I do? So suppose that you did give them a credit on their ledger for those overages as required by law. Suppose that once you found out that you needed to do something, you did it. You wouldn't be in trouble, would you?
Okay.
they're not holding your foot to the fire because you didn't do something. If you found out that you didn't do it and you're correcting it, you look like an angel because you're correcting it. If you do nothing about it, then that makes you look bad.
So you can accumulate all these interests and many years after you just give it to them. Is that okay? As a credit
You're
to the,
supposed to pay them annually. If
Yes.
you don't, they could stop paying the rent, telling them that you're not following the rules. I mean, I would hate to see how that all unfolds. I don't have LA City's rules in front of me, so I don't know what the repercussions of that are, but I'm sure it's not pretty. So once you find something like this that you haven't been doing, just correct it. Because nothing looks better when you get into court in front of a judge and you're like, I made a mistake, Your Honor, and I corrected it. They look at you and go, what? Because nobody does that anymore, okay? Admit immediately, yes, that was an error. It was corrected. Can you see the credit on the ledger? I mean, it's simple.
Patty, I think it's an option that, I think in LAR, so it's either pay it annually or at the end when they terminate.
Okay, I didn't know that it was an option. I
I
just have
think
always
it is.
paid
I
it.
think it is. Yeah,
Okay.
I think it is.
I've always just paid it annually.
Yeah, that's what I
And-
ended up doing. I caught up and then I do it, and it just makes it easier for
It's so much
bookkeeping.
easier
Yeah.
because that dollar amount changes annually. And think about
Right.
it this way. LARSO's been in effect for over 20 years. So
Mhm.
you don't want to try to figure out what the interest rate is 15 years ago, 14 years ago. I mean, it's a nightmare. So once you get it figured out, just do it once a year. It's so much easier. And like I said, I do it at Christmas time because nothing's better than giving your tenant a $10 check at Christmas because it is only about 10 or 12 bucks. Would you agree with that, Arlene?
This year it was only $1 something and 2 something.
So
Because
if
it was
yours,
it was 0.04.
right,
but I
so
went- I
you
had
had
the
to give
list.
your tenant $1 and $2. What
Yeah,
we're
it was-
talking about here isn't a whole lot of money, but it's a whole lot of problems if you don't do it.
So Patty, should I pay cash or check? Because it's only $60.
I never, ever give my tenant cash. You don't have a record of it.
Okay, got it. Got it. Thank
So
you.
even if you're writing a check for 60 cents or $1.20 in Arlene's case, write the check because then you can prove that they cashed it, they received it, they got the money.
Got it. Okay.
I also send them an email at the beginning of December saying to expect at the end of December and what it's for.
Yeah, Val, your number's not right. It's 0.04%. Sorry, I just saw that.
Patty, I have a question here. So
Sure.
how about the tenant that have been living here for a year? Should I pay for the security deposit interest as well?
You're required to under LARSO.
Only after 12 months of residency, Patty. But you don't have to pay the first 12 months. They have to be there
Correct.
over 12 months to pay.
So once they've lived
interest.
there longer than a year, you have to pay interest to them annually on the security deposit. And it's only a couple bucks,
Okay, all right, got it. Thank
but you got to pay it every year.
Yeah, I need to do it for 2023. Thank you, thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate
and like I said, if you're 20 years behind in paying the $2 a year, because it's not a big dollar amount, okay?
Okay,
It's simple interest, not compound interest, G Jones, to answer your question. What the problem is trying to figure out what the rebate interest rate was on security deposits in 1989, okay? That's where it becomes a nightmare, is trying to figure out what the interest rate was for that year. That's the biggest problem.
Patty,
It's not that it's a
LAH
bunch of money.
Yeah,
And I know they
LAHC
have it on
has
their
the form.
website. Yeah,
Yeah, because 1 year it was like 4%, so it really varied a lot.
it varies annually, but they do have it on their website of how much it was each year. You can go find it if you need it. All right, if nobody needs anything else, I'm gonna get out of here. It's hot. I'll see you guys next week. We'll talk more about the new laws and I'll have my whole plethora up and watch the website because we have lots of changes coming. What do you think about, bye everybody? And I saw something. What do you think about the LA County landlord rent relief? They're only going to give you 6 months and you can't evict going forward for how long? It doesn't apply to you if you own more than 4 doors, including the one you live in. All right, if you guys need anything else, let me know. I don't like the rent relief, Tony. Can you tell? They're not paying you, get them out. All right, you guys have a great week. If you need me for anything, let me know. Bye, everybody. You're correct. 68 million in rent relief doesn't sound like much when they're only giving little landlords 6 months at a time. It's not very much at all. Bye, everybody.